Hello everyone, and welcome back to our show. I'm your producer, Jack Tunney, and we're coming to you live on tape from the Sandwich Studio in Oceanside, California. Today is May 20th, 2021. And in This Week in History, circa 1932, after flying for 17 consecutive hours from Newfoundland, Amelia Earhart landed in Londonderry, Ireland. This was the first transatlantic flight completed by a woman. Speaking of transatlantic, we're going overseas for today's episode. We will be discussing the 20-year conflict in Afghanistan that is now coming to a close. If you like this content, go like and subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment down below. Now, without further ado, in association with SitRep Media, the hosts of the PB&J podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our show. I'm Peter Whitehead.
And my name is Brandon Blackman.
We're going to talk about some stuff today. The first thing we're going to talk about in the first bite is the ousting of Liz Cheney.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot there, honestly. Because there's so much, because it's like, okay, should we just start clapping for Liz Cheney? Or is Liz Cheney, doing this for her own personal gain? Or is she actually, doing something that's going to be good and progressive, for the Republican Party when they are, dealing with reality? Mm-hmm. I think there's a little bit of truth in all of those and a little bit of lies in all of those. So what happened?
Yeah. So to start this off, obviously, we got to talk about the continuation of the so-called big lie. That big lie being that Donald J. Trump won the 2020 election, despite results to the contrary. And he quadrupled down on this recently with a statement. And this was one of the things that Liz Cheney came out against just before that Republican vote to oust her. And I just wanted to read a little bit from it. So if you could put that up on the screen, perchance.
And this one
producer.
comes actually straight from
the Donald
Trump Twitter. This is the new Trump social media. Actually, there's no retweets and no likes. It's just him talking. Yeah. So I think he loves it. Probably. He
probably loves it. Yeah. He gets a bunch of views or whatever he gives him glory in the morning, I guess.
He's just happy to have his voice heard. Honestly.
Is it up? Okay. So I just want to read like the first couple sentences of this so that we get an understanding of where this man is still standing. The entire database of Maricopa County in Arizona has been deleted. This is illegal, and the Arizona State Senate, who is leading the forensic audit, is up in arms. Additionally, seals were broken on the boxes that hold the votes. Ballots are missing, and worse. So basically, it's just, it's a continuation of the stuff that he said before, except with this new added twist that somehow the entire database for votes in Maricopa County was deleted, which is not true. Okay, it's just not true.
Also, I love how he just says, an entire database. It's like, what database?
Yeah, which one, dude?
The entire database of Maricopa County. Like, it's like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just saying these words.
Yeah, and then the guy, obviously he's a Republican too, who's in charge of the vote counting there. He said, that this was a blatant lie, and even called the president deranged.
Yikes.
Which is always nice to hear from a Republican.
Yeah.
You could put us back up, Sonny.
And that's kind of where this whole story is going. It's nice to hear these words from a Republican.
Sorry, I was kind of getting lost at the sidebar. Because it doesn't give you any description on what the statement is.
Yeah.
It just all says...
Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States.
No, I don't think he's good at the internet. I think he
should have people, though. He really should have people.
Yeah. This is like a longer point I was thinking about this week. But, I think that Trump truly just loves Twitter. He loves the retweets. He loves liking. He loves the commenting. He really just likes...
He must be bumming, man.
Yeah, look at his boomer website. It looks like a freaking, it looks like he designed the website, Yeah. There's no pictures.
Yeah, it's just his name, Save America.
Now or else, right or go left.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Liz Cheney,
who I am now going to call a relic of the old Republican Party. She's not... So it's something that I want to make perfectly clear when I talk about this story. I don't support Liz Cheney. I don't support her policies. I don't support her values. I just think that it is refreshing to see someone on the other side of the aisle say some of these things that Democrats have been saying for a long time, you know? Mm-hmm. Just some history on her. She's the daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney. She's been a representative in the House of Representatives since 2016 for the state of Wyoming. She's known for being neoconservative. She focuses on national security, support for the U.S. military, pro-business policies, and is known for being both fiscally and financially conservative, or fiscally and socially conservative, excuse me. I said fiscally and financially.
Yes. So
now you're thinking conservative.
just two economies. But yeah, so she's like a pretty run-of-the-mill Republican conservative person, you know?
I would say most of our viewers probably wouldn't be voting for her in an election.
Yeah, just very, very standard Republican, you know, of 15 years ago, though, not really the standard Republican now, but...
And that's why I just want to, you know, recommend people, you know, when you're seeing her coming out and saying all of the right things and all of the good things, it's very important that you do, you know, clap and you support, you know, the truth. But it's also important to remember that, you know, her record is still, you know, something that is going to affect her. So while she was in office during the Trump era, she actually followed Trump's leads on votes for legislation about 92.9 or, you know, 93% of the time. And most of those votes where she stepped out of the Trump line ended up being usually bills that increased more defense spending or continue
pro-war, but like stuff.
Yeah. I think one vote was to continue the Syrian occupation when Trump was trying to get out. So
yeah, she
kind of stepped out when it was honestly to the right of where Trump was trying to go sometimes. Yeah. So once again, I'm going to say that she is not someone who is turning a new leaf, becoming a Democrat, and
she's no saint. No saint.
Yeah. That's why I think this the statement from Representative Ilhan Omar is extremely important, because they actually had like a lot of Twitter back and forth, her and Liz Cheney personally, and AOC. So this statement is you know, a little personal, but she says that Liz Cheney is as right wing as they come. Liz Cheney has spent her entire career agitating for war with Iran. Liz Cheney is an open climate denier and has pressured the government to silence climate activism. She has also supported the giant tax breaks for the billionaires. She supported gutting healthcare in this country and is one of the most prominent agitators for the endless wars and impunity for human rights abusers. She has repeatedly singled out Muslims for scorn and directly contributed to the rise of anti-Muslim hate in this country.
That's so true. She had some really gnarly statements at that time when that was like...
I don't know exactly what it was, but I know that she was very directly against Omar, just like the entire Fox News apparatus was. So she ends it off with saying that progressives should not be celebrating anyone with her record. But it is also true that the reason Republicans are removing her for... She goes on to say that it's also true that the reason Republicans are removing her from leadership is completely shameful. So I think that's a very honest and, you know, mature statement from, you know, Ilhan Omar, who openly dislikes her. She says that her being removed from her leadership is wrong and, you know, shameful, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Because it's not like she is, you know, doing anything evil or, you know, committed like a crime or anything. She came out and said the basic truth that Biden won the election instead of Trump. And
refuses to propagate lies that Trump tells.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the entire Republican Party comes out and silences her, and they voted her out of her leadership.
Yeah.
You want to talk more about that part?
Yeah. So obviously she spoke out a lot against Trump after the January 6th insurrection, and the subsequent impeachment vote, of course.
Yeah, she was a big advocate in the impeachment process.
Yeah,
as well, but
she said that she would vote to impeach the president. In a statement, she said, "The president of the United States summoned this mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack. Everything that followed was his doing. None of this would have happened without the president. The president could have immediately and forcefully intervened to stop the violence. He did not. There has never been a greater betrayal by a president of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution. So that's, I mean, you heard statements like that from every Democrat in the House.
Yeah.
So it's not like anything super far beyond what you know, like she's not really doing anything magnificent here.
Yeah.
All she's doing is saying, this is the truth. The president did this, you know?
She's agreeing with, you know, the majority of Americans who thought impeaching Trump was a good idea at the time. So
9 other Republicans in the House did join her in voting to impeach the president, making 10 Republicans and every single Democrat voting to impeach the president. And then in the subsequent weeks after that, there began to be talk about ousting Liz from her leadership position. She's number 3 in the House of Representatives for the Republicans. So after, Trump and other Republicans in the House and Senate continued to spread that lie that we talked about, Cheney continued to be outspoken. So it wasn't like there were some Republicans who, when January 6th rolled around, were pretty outspoken about it. I mean, I remember we showed on this show Lindsey Graham, you know, saying things have gone far enough, you know?
yes.
So this was, at that time, it wasn't that rare for a Republican to be saying something against Trump. Mm-hmm. It was rare, however, in the weeks following, after some of the press had cooled down on January 6th and the impeachment had failed in the Senate, the impeachment vote to remove him from office and then to keep him from attaining future office. A lot of the Republicans dropped that facade that they were, you know,
they didn't have
playing both sides or whatever.
Because the media cycle had changed at that point. So they didn't have
and the pressure wasn't on them anymore.
Exactly.
So yeah, but she continued, one of the main vocal Republicans, her and Mitt Romney, to be outspoken against this lie.
Which is great.
They, you know, the truly Trump Republicans started to call for her to be removed. This was like a month or 2 ago.
Mitt Romney got booed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hilarious video.
She was removed when the caucus met and agreed by verbal vote to remove her. And it only took 20 minutes for them to decide. They came into the room where the Republican caucus meets, and 20 minutes later they walked out of the room and Liz Cheney had been removed from her leadership position.
Yikes.
She is reported to have said to her colleagues at the vote, if you want leaders who will enable and spread his destructive lies, his being the former president, his destructive lies, I'm not your person. You have plenty of others to choose from. That will be their legacy.
She is spitting.
And she has continued, even after being removed from her leadership position, to be very vocally anti the big lie, anti-January 6th, and anti-Trump. She believes that the Republican Party should move away from Trump, and that is the only way that they will grow. Mm-hmm. The Republican Party seems not to agree.
Well, if we want to quote Lindsey Graham from that clip we saw earlier, he said that he thinks that, you know, staying with Trump is the only way the party will survive.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, shows how kind of desperate they are in a sense. Like they are clinging on to
a despot,
basically like the only popular guy in their party right now, if you know what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah.
Is the burning ship analogy perfect for this?
Rats in the burning ship?
Yeah,
do they stay or do they jump off? Is that what the analogy?
Do you jump off or do you stay?
Yeah.
Because
that's a good one.
The water is scarier too. They don't want to give up the ship to the Black Lives Matter radical leftists. So, I mean, and you know, I kind of want to, you know, show the difference between, you know, we did an episode about Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Republican response to that. And, you know, the Republicans came together and defended someone who was, you know, spreading, you know, one, anti-Semitic lies about them having Jewish space lasers and all these other crazy conspiracies. The Republican Party came out in full support. On the other hand, Liz Cheney comes out,
tells the truth, but still votes with Republicans 93% of the time. She's still a faithful conservative in all senses of the word. But if you just speak out against us, against our party, then we get rid of you, you know?
Yeah.
It's gnarly.
And to double
Gnarly
down,
stuff.
the Republicans are supposed to be, you know, the party of free speech, the party of freedom.
Yeah, and here they are canceling Liz Cheney.
Cancel culture.
I saw that comparison that you know, they complain often about cancel culture, and then they want Liz Cheney to shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
And it's like okay, well, one or the other, bud.
And you know, like we said, we're not like a supporter of Liz Cheney, but we can see when someone is being
She's just a politician, man.
yeah,
Like-
she's being violated,
Yeah, and this is
disrespected.
it's just not cool. And I mean I don't think that there's much more to say about the story besides Republicans are not being cool.
Yeah,
They're
being kind of sus.
yeah, super sus, I would say.
Kinda
I would
weird.
say I would say super sus. But yeah, you want to move on a sandwich?
Yeah.
You got anything to say?
Thanks for watching the first bite. We are going to move on to the sandwich now. We're going to talk about some pretty big news, some kind of like an era of our lives, a period, like a
our whole lives.
yeah.
Really, you and me, Brandon. I mean, and obviously Jack Tunney behind the screen. Although I'm convinced more and more that he's not actually there. But
Okay.
Who's to tell?
who's to tell?
Not you, Peter.
He's there.
But yeah, I mean, this war began right after 9/11.
Yeah. I was too.
Yeah, and I believe before even the end of 2001, we had troops on the ground in Afghanistan. I think I wrote that down. But yeah, I mean, as long as I can remember, we have had troops fighting in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And in fact, troops have been fighting for so long in Afghanistan that some of the original service members who fought in the early years of the war have gone home, had kids. Those kids have grown up and are now fighting in Afghanistan.
Crazy.
Um,
Generations of families.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I look at it as someone who, you know, didn't grow up in like a military family, didn't grow up in San Diego, which is like a military area, right?
yeah.
But I grew up in New York. So I saw a lot of kind of the culture war that took place afterwards. Just, you know, the American exceptionalism, you know,
Right.
protect the flag, protect each other. A lot of truly positive stuff,
Yeah.
you know, people coming together after crises. But then also a lot of the negative stuff, such as, you know, anti-Muslim rhetoric and, you know, the kind of overcorrection in the sense of, you know, like the police state and like,
Oh yeah.
you know, like being searched in our phones and all that stuff and all of the anti-terrorist efforts that
Well,
are positive.
all
but then
that
go too
stuff comes
far.
out of 9/11.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, the NSA and Operation.
Act.
Yeah, the Patriot Act. I almost said Operation Patriot. The Patriot Act. All that stuff was direct response to what happened on 9/11 and the lives that we lost on 9/11 and the personal attack all Americans felt
Yeah.
at that time. So
We, maybe not all of us, but I clearly have a memory of me and my mom in my mom's lap watching the TV on the day and seeing it because I had an uncle that worked in the towers
yeah.
who is one of the, you know, very tragic people who passed away from cancer after the buildings fell. So it's not even like, you know, the deaths of just a day. But
Yeah, the subsequent deaths.
yeah, so mainly what I'm trying to get at here is how much this affected American culture till today, you know, in our movies, in our music, in clothes, and just how we view our country is built in the patriotism, which is directly from 9/11 and the war in Afghanistan and
yeah.
Iraq.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a very culturally defining moment for sure. You know, there's a pre 9/11 America and there's a post 9/11 America. You know,
And we didn't grow up in that pre 9/11 America. I have no idea what it was like. No clue what it was like.
so yeah, Biden.
Free.
Kind of cool.
Well, I shouldn't say.
Biden's proposal. He's saying that he will withdraw all American troops from Afghanistan over the coming months. He expects to complete the military exit by the 20th anniversary of September 11th, 2001, which of course is coming up this year, September 11th, 2021. Biden's decision comes after an administrative review of U.S. options in Afghanistan, where U.S. peace talks between the Taliban and Afghan government have failed to advance as hoped, and the Taliban remains a potent force despite 2 decades of effort by the United States to defeat the militants and establish a stable democratic governance. Now, this is a really complicated issue, I think. And I think anytime that we pull out of a conflict zone, there's going to be complexity to it. So I wanted to go through some of the things that we did while we were there, some of the hot points of the war, in order to get a better understanding of what we're dealing with in this territory. So, we began operations in Afghanistan at the end of 2001, just a few weeks after 9/11. I was right about that earlier. President George W. Bush, or W, as I call him, described these operations as carefully targeted actions that are designed to disrupt the use of Afghanistan as a terrorist base of operations and to attack the military capability of the Taliban regime. Even then, the president warned of a lengthy campaign.
They had no idea.
Yeah, they had no idea. After nearly 2 years of conflict, the Taliban appeared to be routed and severely weakened. The U.S. shifted its focus to rebuilding the war-torn country. There were early successes, of course. A pro-Western government was installed. New schools, hospitals, and public facilities were built. Thousands of girls barred from education under the Taliban rule attended school. Women who were largely confined to their homes by the Taliban went to college, joined the workforce, and even served in parliament and government of Afghanistan. But the issue with this particular government is that corruption was rampant. With hundreds of million dollars in reconstruction and investment money stolen or misappropriated, the government proved unable to meet the basic needs of most of its citizens. Often its effects barely extended beyond its capital, which is Kabul, and other major cities.
Yeah, so basically, some people can accuse the Afghani government of basically taking advantage of the current situation, in which, they take that personal profit from the aid money, and instead of, rebuilding the country, they just put it in their own pockets.
And some of the money really did rebuild the country, but a lot of it, and more of it than ever should be necessary, definitely went into people's pockets.
Yeah.
And that's not acceptable, for sure.
I mean, it's a weak government, so it's not like it's, a strong... Anyway.
So yeah, the Taliban, as we mentioned, over the next several years, rebuilt their fighting capabilities, despite efforts by NATO peacekeepers and U.S. troops, who secured territory previously controlled by the Taliban and sought to win over Afghanis, with promises of new schools, government centers, and roads and bridges. With the Taliban posing an enhanced military threat, President Barack Obama, you can see how many years later this is, right?
Yeah.
Because now it's President Obama, not W.
All of a sudden, 12 years later.
Yeah. President Barack Obama deployed thousands more troops to Afghanistan as a part of a surge, reaching nearly 100,000 troops on the ground by mid-2010. But the Taliban only grew stronger, inflicting heavy casualties on Afghan security forces, despite American combat power and airstrikes.
Yikes.
After the Navy SEALs killed Osama bin Laden in May 2011, a lot of us remember that, President Obama promised that he would start bringing home American forces and that he would fully hand over control to Afghan security forces by 2014. However, as we know,
as we see,
he wasn't able to pull all the troops out by 2014, but he did end all major combat operations in Afghanistan on December 31st of 2014. So kept that part of the promise. Nearly 3 years later, President Donald J. Trump. So, I mean, this is a 3-president conflict, now a 4-president conflict, because Biden's got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Said that although his first instinct had been to withdraw all troops, he would nonetheless continue to prosecute the war. He stressed that any troop withdrawal would be based on combat conditions, not predetermined timelines.
I know that he said this about the Syrian conflict, I believe.
Yeah.
But he came out and literally said, we gotta protect the oil, you know. We got troops. We pulled the troops out, but we left the troops at the very sensitive locations. The oil. So, you know, I don't know if that's his exact same opinion on this, but we've heard him say the same thing before. So we know that he has his own motives that aren't always centered around humanitarian efforts in this.
Absolutely. I would also say, too, the military commanders, you know, the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all that, I don't believe they would recommend to any president that we pull out of Afghanistan. I don't believe that they would recommend that. I mean, for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
But the predominant reason being they're a military. We're at war, you know.
Continue.
You know, they think, I don't think that the president at this time, which was Donald J. Trump, you know, would have gotten advice from the Joint Chiefs of Staff to say, hey, I think you should pull out of Afghanistan. I think he would have gotten the opposite advice.
It's going to be super rare for a military leader to be like, I think it's a really good military idea if we just retreat and just like leave this area. Like, it doesn't make strategic sense. And I don't think the people who are advocating the most harshly for a full withdrawal, I think people understand that there are going to be drawbacks from that. But I think that they're arguing that the drawbacks of continuing this effort are just as costly. So
if not more costly. I think they would argue. But I mean, and again, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, you know, I don't have any hate for those guys. I think really what they're looking at it is purely strategic. You know, purely we have combat operations in this area. We have interests in this area. You know, it's a purely strategic, and that's their job. They're not supposed to think about the politics. They're not supposed to think about, you know, the civilians, the humanitarian side of it. They're supposed to think about, is this good for our military? So, you know, I think it's reasonable for them to have that idea and to give that advice to the 45th president. Trump, of course, and I talked about this a lot in high school in debate, began controversial peace talks with the Taliban, excluding the Afghan government and their president, Ashraf Ghani. I hope I said that right. I'm so sorry.
I don't know if I didn't hear about this, but I totally forgot that happened. So is that what surrounded that? Like the details?
The Taliban only wanted to talk to the U.S. They didn't want to include the Afghan government in their peace talks, and Trump said okay to that.
All right.
So it wasn't Trump's idea to like only talk to the Taliban, but he did accept their, you know, pretty controversial idea that they were just going to not have the other side of the conflict in the peace talks.
The whole idea is to, you know, bring in all three parties.
Yeah.
But okay.
But so they had like one party and the mediator, but no.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was some success in these peace talks. The Afghan government feels they're at a disadvantage negotiating with the Taliban because their position is much more precarious now that the U.S. and the UN are pulling their forces out.
Yeah, I mean, truly, what do they have to? What is their bargaining tool? What is their? The bargaining tool has always been the U.S. presence, right? The Western support. So that's the positive of having the foreign intervention and the.
Yeah, and I really don't imagine, dude, that, you know, if we pull out all of our troops and then 2 years' time the Taliban rolls in and takes Kabul again, like I can't imagine we're just gonna leave that. So. You know, there's still some assurances. We're still allied with the Afghan government. You know what I mean? But it is a scary situation for the Afghan government right now because the Taliban is powerful. They have guns. They move around very easily within the borders of Afghanistan. They have support from neighboring extremists from Pakistan, from Syria, from Iraq. So there's a lot of issues here that the Afghans are facing. But, you know, Biden thinks that we're in a position now where we can pull out. So
the situation is extremely precarious, and it's been precarious for decades. And we tried.
So I wanted to talk about the Afghan security forces a little bit, because they are now going to be the people who are keeping the peace in Afghanistan, and they were doing a lot of it before. Let's be perfectly clear.
Yeah.
A U.S. was supporting the Afghan Defense Force or security forces, the Afghan security forces, in patrolling and things, and helped them with training and provided weapons, certain things like this. But they have been doing the predominant, but now it will be only them, right? So in recent months, the Afghan security forces have abandoned dozens of checkpoints in the face of Taliban assaults. Military and police units have been hollowed out by desertions, low recruitment rates, poor morale and leadership, and the theft of pay and material by commanders. They have suffered high casualty rates, which American commanders have said are not sustainable.
I think that's where we kind of have to loop it back to the corruption and like the loss of funds and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a direct example. But I mean, also, like, if I'm not getting paid well enough to be in the military, why would I stay here?
Well, yeah. Well, it's threefold though. So it's like, I'm not getting paid enough. My commanders are stealing my money. I'm in constant physical danger because the Taliban can attack from anywhere at any time,
And they're coming.
Always they're coming.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like, it can't be a great job, because you're operating as police force and military force in a place that is largely lawless, like largely. So it's very dangerous, very hard for them to keep people in, and then they're also dying at a significant rate. They're getting killed a lot. So it's like it's really hard for them to deal with.
The precarious situation is coming into picture, hopefully, for the audience.
Security forces also have abandoned checkpoints on several major highways, allowing the Taliban to set up roadblocks, impose tolls and taxes on truckers and motorists, providing official receipts valid anywhere in the country.
Yikes. Okay, pause again. So that's state building.
Yeah.
That's what countries do. That's what nations do.
Yeah, they build up roadblocks and they start taking taxes and stuff.
So, I mean, one, that's increasing their legitimacy, but also that's increasing like the fear. Like they're increasing their legitimacy through fear. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure there's going to be a dude with an AK-47 or something. There's going to be armed threat of.
Listen to this next part. The militants have also set up checkpoints on the outskirts of major cities, raising fears that they will attempt to wrest control of cities from the government after international forces depart. Not very clear cut, is it?
Ayo.
They're posted outside the castle.
Yeah,
waiting,
watching.
Yeah,
watching the king's men ride away.
Consider it's 14 something, right? The British are invading France, and they have support from, I don't know, the Irish and the Scottish or something. Let's just say that, right? The British are in a castle. The French army is coming. And that's when the Scots and the Irish are like, yeah, we got to go. Peace out. It's been real.
Well,
we hope you guys do okay.
I think that's kind of a bad, characterization because they've been holding them off for a long time. But it's like, yeah. And then also the foreign army is collecting tolls on the roads heading to your castle.
Yeah.
And so, yikes.
Yeah.
Precarious situation.
Of course, it is. This is super expensive, and that's largely what has been said about these wars by liberals since they started. I mean, we spend at least $4 billion a year on the Afghan military. That's $74 billion just since the war began.
And that's in like the aid that we send to them.
Yeah, that's just for the Afghan military, $4 billion a year. That's like not including all of the money it costs for us to fly our drones over there and for all of our military troops over there, the humanitarian aid that we do.
Yeah.
That's this part of that budget.
And our military budget's been, rising and rising each year under this, since the last 20 years and even before this war. So it's like there's more money being spent here that can even be accounted for ever.
Absolutely. And that's largely why people say that we want to pull out, because I mean, it might just be throwing water into a bucket that has a hole in the bottom, you know, expecting it to get filled.
Sadly, like depressingly, tragically.
Also, though, a classified intelligence assessment presented to the Biden administration this spring said Afghanistan could fall largely under Taliban control within 2 to 3 years after the departure of international forces.
Bruh.
The Taliban is confident it can achieve military victory, is what the threat assessment concluded. The report added the Taliban is likely to make gains on the battlefield, and the Afghan government will struggle to hold Taliban at bay if the coalition withdraws support.
This is a dumb comment, but
I'm here for those.
you know, why couldn't we just like? This is actually dumber than I thought it was gonna sound. But
Why can't we all get along?
why can't we just? Why didn't they just build a wall around Kabul? You know what I'm saying? Around the capital city.
Because that is a 5th century solution for a 21st century problem.
What happens when the guys can just walk in because they look like everybody else?
Yeah.
The Great Wall of China is still standing.
Yeah, but it doesn't keep anybody out.
Yeah, and the Mongolians took a
Mongolians just went around it.
Yeah, they took a hip, skip, and jump, and oh my gosh, they're here.
Yeah, they just went around.
Remember how many dynasties it took for them to build that wall?
I know, but
Genghis Khan was like, nah, this is my time.
Yeah. They were trying to keep the Mongols out. They couldn't do it. The Mongols just went all the way around. Came in. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
it's just sad we spend all that money on, you know, hospitals and schools and, you know, piano lessons for young Afghani girls. But we didn't build, like, you know, as soon as they take the toll roads, they won. They take the roads and they won. So it's just like, how much could we really have done to stop the inevitable, you know? And then we can get into this more again later, but it's just like, what is the solution? What is the right answer? You know, how do we protect foreign areas without, you know, doing more damage? How do we keep the autonomy of those areas without letting the damage go out of control? You know, those are the two sides of the question.
Absolutely. Me personally, I think the Taliban is horrifying. I think what they do to people is horrifying. I think what they do to cities, what they do to women is horrifying. And I think truly that should be enough for Americans to say, this is a conflict worth fighting. And I am in general anti-war. I don't like the concept of young men killing each other. I don't like the concept of what those young men do when they get into a city that they've conquered. I don't like the concept of what happens to them when they return home. All of those things are terrible.
Yeah. The Taliban is an oppressive, religious extremist group that, you know, one, the people don't support. Two, the way they gain support is through fear and through murder.
Yeah.
I mean,
and what will they do to those men and women who help the Allied forces in Kabul or any of those other major cities when they retake them? I'll tell you. Look at the the siege of Ramadi in Iraq, 2006. Okay, we took that city. We set up police outposts. It was the safest city in the world for 7 years. One of the safest cities in the world. I shouldn't say the safest. One of the safest cities in the world for 7 years. Allied forces pull out. In comes ISIS. They killed everyone who had anything to do with America. Everyone. Their whole families.
Yeah, and ISIS is even darker than Taliban.
Yeah.
Taliban.
So, like, that's the type of thing that we're dealing with here. That's the type of people that we're dealing with. They're worse than the Nazis.
I fucking hate ISIS. Remember that campaign where they were just like, yeah, let's just destroy all the old, awesome, historic monuments because fuck history. Yeah. We're going to create our new ISIS history. That shit's awful.
Yeah. And I shouldn't conflate the two.
No.
They're different, but
no. But I mean, it's the risk of extremist, you know, religion, and it's not even like that. These are not everybody who lives in these areas subscribe to the most, you know, radical of these beliefs.
No.
Sometimes it's I have to or else. You know, sometimes it's I've been raised in this culture and I have no other option.
Yeah.
So it's this. We can't just go in there and say stop believing that.
Yeah.
Go in there and stop. You know, give up your culture. That's when it's like, okay, so we just have to fight, and that's like the scary and sad part.
Well, you know, I think that there are lessons from history that we can learn here. I think we've been there too long. I will say that with certainty. I think we spent too much money.
Been there for too long without enough adequate results.
Yeah.
Because if we've been there for long enough,
we had to fight the Nazis.
Yeah.
Right? We had to. We had to fight the Japanese.
Yeah.
The Japanese imperial forces, I should say, because they were coming for us.
Yes.
The Taliban is coming for innocent people. They're coming. You know, I think that's a fight worth fighting. I think that's the Taliban, ISIS, the Al Qaeda militants in these regions. They are some of the evilest people in the world.
Here's where I will differ from your point a little bit. I think that we became responsible for those people when we went there. So, you know, if it was like some random country and like it was a news story and like these two parties are fighting and, you know, we never had been there, they never attacked us on 9/11, you know, sure, we might have like some refugees from that country, immigrants from the country or something, but we don't have any relation there. We wouldn't have the same responsibility that we do now after 20 years of making it our responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what makes it different than like a newer conflict. Yeah. My recommendation for if a new conflict popped off today, it would be, you know, either be, you know, impartial and protect peace, or stay out of it and, you know, protect American interests by not
and help in a humanitarian way. That's what I say with new conflicts is you could help the civilians while not helping the militants on each side.
Yeah,
because the civilians are caught in the crossfire regardless of which side they support. You know,
I mean, there's literal apolitical people. You know, there's
sure
apolitical people in America. They're just like that. There's apolitical people in Iraq, Afghanistan, these Middle Eastern countries that we just see them as, oh, they're all Muslim, and being Muslim is a radical, dangerous ideology.
Yeah,
that's not what we're saying here.
Yeah, no,
there are these very specific sects.
Yeah, specifically the groups, and that's why I've been very specific by saying the Taliban. Al Qaeda militants like
that use weaponry to gain political power and use the political power to oppress civilians.
Yeah,
and I don't think they have an interest of helping the civilians, which is another.
Oh no! I mean, you could ask people that live there. You know, like you could, and that's the great thing about the internet. You can talk to these people.
Oh yeah.
There's not much popular support for there's some, but there's not much popular support for the Taliban. They just have might, and might makes right in some places in the world still.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about the cost a little bit here because this might put some things in perspective. So first I want to talk about American lives because we are a show in America and, obviously we're going to be a little bit US centered. I'll get to the others, but, so military personnel, 2,312 killed since October of 2001, American soldiers.
I think a number I heard was like around 20,000 injured or something around that.
Yeah, I didn't even put those numbers down because it's horrifying how many men were injured in combat.
And the numbers aren't exactly always accurate.
Yeah.
Can't keep track of everything, but
on average, nearly 20 veterans commit suicide each day, according to a VA study. The Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America found that 62% of its members know a veteran who has died by suicide. The group considers veteran suicide to be its top issue. So, I mean, that's men killed in conflict and then men who died from the conflict even after they had left it, which, again, that's terrible. I don't want to see that. No one wants to see that.
Yeah, it's like when you return home and there's no hope here.
Yeah, I saw something really interesting the other day, and it was a World War I veteran, and it was an old interview of a World War I veteran. And he said that what they did to him when he went into boot camp is they broke him down. They broke down his personality and they made him the standard military man, makes his bed a certain way, cocks his gun a certain way.
Wakes up at 5 a.m.
Wakes up, does his thing, you know, he made him into that, right? He thinks that they should have a boot camp after you come back from combat to build you back up to being a normal civilian again.
Yeah.
And not just an order following soldier in a conflict, because they're very different things.
Yeah.
Those two things are extremely, extremely different. And it's hard for people, it's hard for veterans to come home from conflict, to see their buddies injured or killed, to be injured themselves even, to come home from conflict and to deal with it reintegrating into society with practically no help from the government. I mean, we could do a whole segment on the VA.
Yeah.
And how misfunded it is, how ineffective it is at solving the issues that these men and women face every day. I mean, we probably should in the future do a whole sandwich on the VA.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how much you wanted to talk about this because I have so much to say. Especially, you know, we live 5 minutes away from Camp Pendleton.
Oh.
I've been on there a ton of times.
Yeah.
I've seen what their the VA dental program looks like.
Oh,
I've seen it.
Jeez.
I've seen it. All right. But my take on that is something that, you know, really woke me up as like a middle schooler is this documentary about a World War II veteran who is a black man, and he talks about how he went to France and he was loved and celebrated as a hero and like literally carried through the streets because they were appreciating him for his service. They knew he was an American and they were like, oh, a black American, oh my God, we've heard so much about the struggles and everything. And like he was cheered as a hero, and he returns home to a post World War II America, which is the height
Still
of
segregated.
the height of Jim Crow.
Yeah.
So he's like, I just saw France where they are, you know, progressive as, you know, 1945, but where they were, I was loved, and I go back to my home where I'm hated and I'm not supported and I am basically shunned and pushed into a corner.
That was one of the things. Did you ever see Da 5 Bloods?
I never saw it. No.
Spike Lee?
No, I never saw it.
One of the scenes in it, and I won't talk about the whole movie, but one of the scenes in it is the day Martin Luther King was shot. There were black GIs in Vietnam fighting for America.
Yeah.
And over the radio, the Korean radio, the Viet Cong played the same message over and over again. Black GIs, your savior is dead. Black GIs, America doesn't care about you. Could you imagine you're fighting a conflict for your country, and back home, they're killing you.
Vietnam, take me.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, you know, there were defections and stuff when that happened. But it's incredible that Black Americans, I mean, they fought in every war that we've had. Revolutionary
in significant
War.
numbers because the military is a good job if you don't have other options.
Yeah. The Civil War, World War I, all of these conflicts that we've been in, huge numbers of black
before
men.
we got paid too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They weren't even paid equally in the Second World War.
Yeah,
so yeah. I mean, that's there's a whole interesting slew. We went on a couple tangents there.
Yeah. But the point we're making is that these people, you know, gave their lives and gave their, you know, their dreams and their, you know, their futures to this project that oftentimes didn't pay them back.
Mm-hmm. In a way that was acceptable, I would say.
Yeah, because, you know, they got paid to go there.
Yeah.
But sometimes
it wasn't equivalent.
Yes.
The exchange.
Yes.
So yeah, we were talking about the cost of the conflict.
Speaking of inequivalent,
the Afghani lives lost from the Afghani Defense Forces, the military and police, 64,100 since October 2001. So that's obviously significantly more than the American lives lost. The civilians, and this is only since 2009 when the UN started accurately recording this data. What?
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Because earlier we were talking about how interesting this conflict is because of all of the urban fighting.
Yes.
And how I was saying that people don't realize that Afghanistan isn't just a bunch of hills and, you know, desert and rocks and hills. There are population centers and
for sure
villages and cities.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how rare it is to do urban fighting in like the modern era.
Yeah. So the last couple wars that we were in before we were in the Middle East, we were fighting largely in extremely rural areas. You might have some villages, some things, but what particularly comes to mind is Vietnam. Most of that fighting was done in the jungle against militants in the jungle, or on the rivers. There was a massive river system that our soldiers used to go up and down on boats. But yeah, this urban fighting really hadn't been done since the Second World War by Americans, to a great extent. Obviously there was some urban fighting, but to the massive extent that has happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, this is really the first conflict since the Second World War that we had such intense urban fighting with civilians intermingling. You didn't know if the civilian is the militant, if they've got a suicide vest on. It's a terrifying prospect for these soldiers.
Yeah. I truly couldn't imagine it for the soldiers that have to, do the final call of, is that a, soldier, or is that, not a soldier? Mm-hmm. And then on the other side,
and the Taliban would send women with suicide vests and things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Children.
And it's like, but then also for the innocent civilian who is like, I'm literally just chilling right here, and now all of a sudden tanks are rolling through, and I'm being pressed and accusationed if I'm a Taliban soldier, and I'm really not, but I have to now prove myself to this foreign power and stuff. Mm-hmm. So like the absolute, I like the word precarious that you use, because it's true. Like one wrong move and this is, a crisis.
Yeah.
One wrong decision and you've just killed a civilian. One wrong move and you just allowed your squad to get blown up.
Yeah, that's the scariest thing.
So it's like all of these different, it's a completely like risky situation, and
well, it's war.
And removing ourselves isn't going to make it any more.
Yeah.
Removing ourselves and staying there, there's going to be costs.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I thought we should add more context before we say the absolute scale of the civilian death, because it is,
it's massive.
It's horrifying.
Yeah. So again, this is since 2009, not since 2001, which was the beginning really of the conflict. 111,000 civilians killed in the last 12 years.
And that's just like what's been recorded.
That's double the military force right there.
Yeah.
That of Afghanis that died. So, I mean, it's horrific. It's horrific over there. And it feels weird to say this after saying those numbers, but in economic cost, $7.9 trillion in debt for America.
Which, to bring it back into, relevance, that, comes at the cost of American life as well. Mm-hmm. Money that could be spent on college for all, and Medicare for all these things that is way too expensive, and that how are we going to pay for it? Yeah. And how are we going to, where's the money going to be from? I mean, the money is gone. We sent the money other places. We gave people tax cuts. We did all these other things while also in the middle of a massive foreign war. So it's awful. I mean, it's truly just like a shit show. And
yeah, I mean, war is always terrible.
But I mean, sorry to interrupt, but like to bring it back to how we experienced growing up in this, like we always thought the World War II was easy, easy and justifiable, and it made sense. We had a clear enemy. Mm-hmm. We knew how to get there.
Couple clear enemies.
We knew who to get. We knew what our end goal was going to be. Mm-hmm. For Afghanistan, it's just like we're just kind of standing around here indefinitely.
Yeah.
So it's just what happens next. Stay or leave. What happens next? If we stay, what happens next? If we leave, what happens next? Who knows?
Yeah. And I think that Biden is making the right call here, despite all of those things that I said. I just want people to have both sides of this, that it's not an entirely good thing that American forces are being pulled out. Okay. I think it's a good thing for America, and that's about it. So yeah, that's why I said all of those things. But I do think that he is making the right call here. I mean, it's a difficult issue. It's a complex issue.
Of course.
Yeah. I think, of course, I think it's always good. It's always good when the fighting stops. But I do worry for the Afghani people. I worry for the cities. I worry that America might have to re-involve itself again, losing all of its territory that it has gained.
Yeah.
That would be horrifying. I mean, that's what happened in Iraq, right? Like we pulled out of Iraq, ISIS rolled in, we had to go back. We had to fight in some of the same cities that we had lost thousands of men in already. So it's just, it's terrible. It's terrible.
I hope that my phone isn't ringing in the mic. I don't think it is. It's just my voice announcing that it is. But that's where I was bringing up my questions, because I'm someone who believes that, the perfect United States would provide, benefits and protection to its people, of course, in a domestic, people first way. I would also want the United States to export that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're protecting minorities and protecting vulnerable people worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
How exactly do we do that without
looking like an imperialist?
Without looking like an imperialist.
Yeah.
How do we do that without hurting innocent people? And like
I'll tell you right now, you can't. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You cannot fight in a war and expect innocents not to die. You cannot fight in a war and expect your own men not to die. You have to approach it from that perspective.
Okay. And then my next question is that like a moral problem for us then to say we can't do anything and we would rather protect our own people's lives? And
you ever seen Les Miserables?
Yes, a few times.
You know how there's that moment when...
So has my mom. Big fan.
Shout out, Mom. There's that moment when Jean Valjean is considering his two options, right? There's a man on trial for his crimes, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, if I do this, if I let this man go to prison for me, I'm damned, right? But if I turn myself in and I go to prison, I am also damned.
Mm-hmm.
You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with these conflicts. Because if we don't protect the Afghani people, after everything that we have done, after all the support that we have given them, after all the promises that we made to them,
the American reputation,
we're immoral.
The American reputation is garbage.
And yet, if we continue to fight there, we continue to have civilian casualties. I mean, we kill civilians there. It's not just the Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
We kill civilians there,
like
in
said,
drone strikes and other such things.
Our troops go in there and they assault
cities.
people sexually, physically. There have been
absolutely
crimes in that sense. So
yeah,
not always positive.
Yeah,
but...
yeah. So we go. We leave. Those people suffer. We stay. Those people suffer. So what do?
You make a decision and you justify it, and two different sides will justify their own sides, and we come to a compromise. Honestly, we vote on it. That's the thing.
When, after 6 months, I finally get Brandon to agree to come to compromise.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But I mean, if I could just say another thing is, look at what the American people have voted for twice.
Yep.
Trump said that he would pull out of America, out of all foreign wars. Like, that's what he was saying, like, super radically, even in, cases where it was proven to put people in harm, such as Syria. He was always, let's pull out, full stop. He won the election, and then Biden comes out, he says that he also wants to stop the war. He also wants to, those are popular policies that people want.
People don't want to be in this 20-year-long conflict, man.
People like people support the military, but they don't want their children to join the military and go fight in foreign countries. That's just like an honorable thing. That's not something that is going to provide your children with the best life, So, I don't know. And that's, there's a lot of, cultural things that will hold us to war and to our actions in the Middle East. But I truly think that it's a lot of, conditioning and what we're used to. We're used to being the world police and doing whatever we want because we're the big, strong man. And it's normal for us to, take advantage of our power in that way when we're talking about the crimes and all of the reckless things that have happened. So I think it's going to be a bigger dismantling of that culture as well as the war itself.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
We'll see you on September 11th, 2021.
That's right.
It'll be official or it won't be. That's also a possibility. We didn't mention that once. We didn't mention it once. He might just not. We might just forget about it. What the fuck is this, dude?
I don't know. Where'd you pull that out of?
It stabbed me in the finger.
That's a clothing pin right there.
That freaking stabbed me in the finger.
It was probably in your shirt.
My drip?
Yeah, in your drip.
My drip is coming apart.
Yeah. Here you go, Tony. That's for you. Wishoo!
It's not fashion if it doesn't hurt. So.
But yeah, let's get to the milk. All right, we got a great milk.
We got
Hey, we finally watched something that, or finally doing something that we've both seen here.
And we didn't plan it.
Yeah.
We didn't coordinate it.
So we're gonna be talking about Invincible.
There's a new. I can introduce this one.
Introduce it. Well, I have a whole thing here.
Okay. Yeah. I don't have much information.
Okay.
Invincible is a show. It is a comic book that has now been turned into a show.
Mm-hmm.
It
by
follows
Robert Kirkman.
It by who?
Robert Kirkman. He wrote The Walking Dead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he write like the comic Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, good comics, good art style in the comics.
Fantastic comics.
The games, I played those. I would love to see an Invincible game. So basically, Invincible follows our main character. His name is Mark. He is a young boy who lives in a city. He has a very strong father who is a superhero. His name is Omni-Man.
He's like a Superman type archetype.
Yeah. Are we doing spoilers?
Spoiler free first.
Yeah. No spoilers. Omni-Man is dank. He is like, the top superhero, but it's kind of like
got a great mustache too.
Yeah.
I'm impressed by his mustache.
No, he's hot. He's hot. He has good muscles. Has a really nice chin. Strong.
Let me say some of the people that are in it because I think it's amazing. Stephen Yeun it stars as the titular character Invincible, or Mark, as you said, Mark Grayson.
Yes.
He recently got an Oscar nod for his movie Minari. He also played.
It's the same guy.
It's the same guy.
Oh my god!
He
I
also
haven't seen Minari yet though.
He also played Glenn, who is a fan favorite on the Walking Dead TV show.
Oh.
In fact, I would say he probably is the favorite of people on like everybody loves Glenn. No one has a problem with Glenn. There's not a single person on the face of the planet that hated Glenn.
You want to know when I stopped watching The Walking Dead?
When he died?
No, when he had sex. That was literally the last episode I ever saw. I was like, yeah, this is just now. It's too unbelievable now.
Oh, because he's like
way too unbelievable now.
Right, because this guy could never, whatever, dude.
No, but literally.
Also, J.K. Simmons. He's also known as the guy who needs more pictures of Spider-Man. Jack Tunney.
Oh yeah, he's in it.
Let's go ahead and say it.
Hold on, I gotta put something in my mouth.
Yeah, you're right.
I said I need more pictures of Spider-Man.
There it is.
J.K. Simmons plays the role of Omni-Man, Mark's father.
Yeah.
Great. Amazing voice acting.
Amazing. And there's a whole bunch of other people in it. Seth Rogen is in it.
Who's Seth Rogen?
Alan the Alien. You remember he's the guy who comes from...
Oh, this isn't Earth?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the guy.
No, the show is so good.
Urath, that's what he says.
The show is so good because I knew that guy was going to come back.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to come back with some crazy stuff.
But yeah, so I think that this show definitely defied expectations. This is my spoiler-free part. I'm going to get to spoilers later, okay? Definitely defied expectations. I had a feeling going into it that it was going to be just another superhero show. Let me tell you now, and hear me when I say this. It's not just another superhero show. This is an evolution, a natural progression, a mutation even of the superhero genre.
People compared it to The Boys.
It's similar in its aspect, although I would say I think Invincible is better done in the way that it does the things that The Boys does.
It hits.
Yeah.
Invincible really like is a shocking show.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The work that people are doing in the superhero genre is creating a modern mythos. People we can look up to, aspire to be like. This show does that while also shocking the shit out of you in the process.
Yeah.
I recommend anyone who is a little tired of the Marvel DC type superhero movie to go and watch this show. It was made for you. It was made for the people that are a little tired of this genre.
I've come on here and said a few times, like, I'm not the biggest Marvel fan. We've been doing this kind of thing right now.
Yeah.
So the fact that I literally like clicked on this show, someone recommended it, but like I clicked on it, watched it in 2 days. I don't like superheroes. I don't care about that, but it's so much bigger than just superhero. Like it really touches on like the human emotions of dealing with power
and fathers and sons, man,
and invincibility and fathers and sons.
So yeah, let's get to the spoiler part. So if you have not seen Invincible, I recommend that you go watch it and stop watching this right now.
Attention. Spoiler alert.
It's on Amazon Prime.
This is a spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Attention.
From here on out, there will be spoilers. Okay. I'm going to spoil some things in order to talk about some of the themes of this show. If there's anyone who plans on watching this, stop watching this video right now. With that being said, holy fuck, my guy.
Yo.
Oh my God.
Yo.
Think, Mark.
I cannot believe they did the shit that they did in this series.
So much good shit. So many different good like characters. So many different cool storylines.
So unbelievably epic in its storytelling nature. I mean, let's just talk about the first episode. All right, first episode plays out like a normal superhero origin story. Boy is bullied. He gains superpowers. He feels awesome. It's even got like the first fight of his career in it. It's like a very nice, like simple little fight,
Yeah. He's got like his first, like the first costume, and then he's got like his new costume.
The new.
Yeah, so
and
that part.
He flies for the first time, right? In this episode, there's like a whole bunch of stuff that's like very origin story esque.
Meets
right?
Eve.
Yeah, Eve and a whole bunch of people. In this
honestly, the first sign that I knew the show was gonna be different was multiplicate and.
Duplicate.
Duplicate.
Yeah.
Duplicate and Rex. When
that was your first sign, that's like episode 3.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah.
That was just like next level because it's just like, yo, they're honestly saying that the person with cloning powers is gonna use that for sex.
Wouldn't you?
I know, but that's next level for a superhero show. That's kind of shocking. But that's just the beginning. That's the tip of the iceberg.
So the first episode ends, right? And you're like, oh, this was fun. This was a fun little show, right? And the credits start to roll, and in my head I think, I don't know if I want to watch another episode of this tonight. It was fun, but I don't know if I want to watch another episode. Like, it's good, but like, I'm not sure. The credits stop.
Oh.
And they go into this really elongated scene with the Guardians of the Globe, who are basically a Justice League knockoff, right? They got like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman and the Martian Manhunter, right?
The fish man.
Yeah, the fish man. And they're all being called in to their headquarters. Right, and it's different scenes. They're all doing different stuff, and they all get called in to the headquarters.
Oh yeah, that's another great like hero trope. Because just think about, like that's a very classic hero scene. Oh, the heroes are coming in from all over the world.
Yeah, they have their little beepers. They're going off
their heroic mission. Oh yeah, that part was awesome.
The beepers. Yeah, So we're watching this, and I'm kind of like, what is gonna happen here? This is strange.
The gathering of the minds.
At the end of the sequence,
bruh,
they all are gathered.
Bruh.
Invincible's father, Omni-Man, kills every member of the Guardians in one of the most brutal, most grotesque, and shocking sequences of cartoon animation I have ever seen. Do you agree with me, boys?
I agree with you 100%.
Agreed.
I knew right then, okay, as I sat in my bed with my jaw in my lap,
Same.
that this was going to be a very, very different show. It was going to be like unlike anything that had come before it.
Like we were saying, the lead up to that moment is so, positive and, very not stereotypical, but it's a trope, you know? And then they just smash the trope in the face.
Literally.
It's
literally
awesome.
smash the face.
Squeeze
of
the trope. Yes, dude. They just broke the rules. They broke the rules of a superhero show. And
Of a cartoon. I've never seen violence like that.
oh yeah, 100%.
In an anime, maybe I've seen violence like that,
And
but
that's that's like one of the first big fights. That's the beginning of
yeah,
like the last episode, the last fight.
yeah, that's a different level.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
a different level.
So where you go? What else?
I mean, I was just gonna say.
I could talk about that last fight. Freaking punching through the buildings.
My favorite sequence in the entire show is when he throws Mark onto the railway in the subway, and then he picks him up and he holds him.
Oh, Jesus.
And the train.
Oh, Jesus.
They just go through the train.
That part was too much.
Yeah.
I rewatched that part actually.
He literally used Mark to kill all of those people.
Yeah.
He used his body.
But then also like there's this crazy visual, like it's his face. So he's looking directly into it, and then the camera changes, so you're watching the POV of his face smashing through the train.
Blood, guts.
Blood is just covering the screen.
Oh my God.
Hundreds of people die. And then the next thing that happens is the train crashes.
Yeah.
And kills everybody in the train station.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, I just wanted to watch some superheroes with his dad.
This series dialed itself up to 11 at the end of episode 1, and then it just left it there. Just took its hand off the dial.
Yeah.
And it just kept. I mean, the first fight in episode 2 is brutal. All of those civilians dying. He tries to rescue that poor old woman, and he fucking crushes her in his arms.
I forgot that one.
Well, he's like flying through trying to get her to safety, but in the process, like broke her arm and like cut up her leg, and that's like a very realistic look at being a superhero. You can't just fly through a war zone with somebody and have them land safely.
Yeah.
You know?
And his dad was showing him that. That's the conclusion, like the final message is that his dad was like, yo, all this shit is meaningless. I don't give a fuck about any of these buildings or these people. And I'm trying to show you that by smashing you through the streets of Chicago.
Yeah. I think it's Toronto. I could be wrong though.
It might be. But, and then the like another crazy, my last comment, when he's dragged through the streets and the streets are pulled up, thousands of people like just gone in the second. And then they just go off and fight in another fight.
Yeah, they were there for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes they were in the city. And at the end of that episode, they have like a newsreel where they're rolling. And they said Omni-Man and Invincible touched down here during their fight, one of many places that they touched down. They were here for minutes. In those minutes, 600 plus people died, and we're still counting.
Yeah, and then they went off and fought somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
man.
just brutalized him, dude. He put him through an avalanche. He frickin' beat him to a pulp. Think, Mark. Think. Some shit.
I might want to rewatch it.
I can't wait for season 2.
Honestly, it was so good that I honestly didn't realize that the episodes were 45 minutes until I was at the last episode.
Yeah.
I thought they were all 20 minutes because they were so much fun.
Yeah, they were
was
zooming
flying
by. Zooming by. I'm definitely going to have to